Can I tell you to break clean, watch yourself at all times, shake hands now, may the best man win. Good luck to both of you. Round one, that was the bell.
Speed called by very excellent, the uncrowned heavyweight champion.
Welcome into That's Boxing Podcast. I'm Dust.
I'm Coach.
I'm back from Los Angeles. I'm full of Indian food. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. You came from the gym. You're hyped up.
Yeah, I'm fired up, man. I've been really excited about getting this episode done.
I need some of these like electrons you're shooting off. You know, these protons. I need this energy.
Well, what you're looking at is afternoon coffee. Okay, it's still firing off.
Well, 9 o'clock at night.
It's like working a double. I go into the gym and then wake up in the morning, drink some coffee, go to the gym, go home in the middle of the day, take a little nap, wake up, make another pot of coffee, back to the gym again.
I think they call that a siesta.
Yeah, it's literally the 20-minute zip zap back at it. So tell me about LA, man.
It's a great trip. It's a great trip. Fun. Came in the day before the fights. Went to LA Live down to the little, complex there and watched the ceremonial weigh-ins. That was funny. It's always nice to see people weigh in with 10 chains on.
Yeah.
You're not worried about this one. But it was cool. Everybody just walking around. Got to size up the competition. Saw Chris Mannix.
Wow, he's a little bit taller than you.
He's a tall man. All right. Our broadcast duo will eventually land, hopefully, at a DAZN table. That I have a high chair or something. But no, he's a super nice guy. That was great. Was dressed all to the nines in the That's Boxing gear and got a lot of.
That shirt looked great.
People were like, what is that? Is that a thing? Yeah, it's a podcast. What's it called? It's called That's Boxing.
Just point at the shirt.
Yeah, so shout out to all our new listeners right now.
Hell yeah. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah. And then next day, went to the fights, got there, caught the second one in the undercard. Thank God, man. I did not think about this. I should have looked at like east-west orientation of the seats, but we were in we had the best seats by total accident. We were on the shaded side, staring across at the other side, just cooking in the sun. It was hot, man, for hours and hours. Not only were we shaded, but we were right like 3 seats away from the entrance where they had this big purple carpet. So all the celebrities that like were arriving as the fight went on were just like right there. Would just walk out.
Nice.
I was like, oh, what's up?
Nice.
So just saw it. Ridiculous.
I mean, the stars were out in LA.
There was a lot of, that's clearly what they wanted, right?
Yeah.
The first Riyadh season card in LA. And
it's like, how did they get Kate Beckinsale
to
show up?
That was interesting.
I was like, who, what?
I'm not going to lie. My homie that was with me had to tell me who Kate Beckinsale was. I was like, she's a what? What is she?
Yeah.
Actress? Then he told me she was in her 50s, and I was like, this is...
bro.
Like,
she was in Underworld, remember? That movie with the vampires and shit?
No, there's only one vampire movie, and that's Blade.
Well, isn't there two? Blade 2?
Okay, I don't even count that. I only want Wesley Snipes in the 90s. That's it.
Well, Snipes, I don't know if he was in attendance, but there was definitely some stars out at that show. So I had a different experience, obviously. I'm watching it at home.
Loser.
And... Okay, well, the drinks were a lot cheaper at my place. I can guarantee you that.
I think the beers there, Modelo's, were like $24.
How many ounces of Modelo?
I don't even 16. I think. I mean, it was trash. The worst part was food. They have like what do you want? You want like nachos or like a corn dog, hot dog, something like that when you're at like a sporting event. No.
And drinking cheap beer, you got to put some bread in there.
Yeah, no, they have a buffet. We're in like the little VIP whatever thing, like on the level we're on. They got a buffet, $45 per person to get in there. And it's like Thanksgiving food. It's like prime rib that's like barely cooked, asparagus. And like...
No, it's not fight day food.
What, mashed potato? It was terrible. And then I tried to take like 5 cookies, and they were like, it's limit 1 cookie per person. I was like,
$45 worth of cookies.
Walking away with these fucking 3 cookies.
Damn.
I know, it wasn't like Whole Foods where you can just steal that shit.
I was slow cooking chili at the house, so I was checked in. I was thinking about you, man, as I was watching boxing that day from probably about noon, because I was checking in on some other fights happening, and watched a little bit of the Olympics and stuff, and then all the way till the card was over at about 11 o'clock at night.
It was a long day.
Yeah, we're talking 10 hours straight, 11 hours straight, and you were out in the sun. Luckily, like you said, you were on the shady side, because it's been a minute. It was giving me flashbacks to some of those old shows they used to do outdoors in Vegas. We're watching the sunshine on these fighters while they're throwing down.
It was great. The vibe was great. Weather was great. Everybody kind of showing up. Ton of boxers came out. I mean, saw obviously Shakur, Loma, Devin, Tio, Shushu was there. Keyshawn was there. Just like I kept, cool, Julio Cesar Chavez was there, and people recognized him too. That was great. Like seeing people show up, and you could tell there were real boxing heads there, except for the people right behind us who were like clearly some like day trading assholes. It took every ounce of my strength to not like correct them like every 10 seconds when they're like talking, just running their mouth about how bad Crawford is. I was like,
man.
okay.
Well, most people don't know shit about boxing. So
Yeah.
let's get into the card, man. You want to start with the main event?
Sure. Yeah, let's go for it. Dive right in.
All right. Well, so let's talk about what happened on and you tell me what you saw and I'll tell you what I saw. But let's talk about what the judges saw.
The judges saw a close fight. Very close fight, right? Two had it 115, 113. One had it a little bit wider.
116, 114.
Right.
Yeah.
But they saw a close fight, and I think, going into the 10th, it was even. So they all saw Terrence taking the last 2 rounds, and that being the difference in the fight.
And that's why they call them the championship rounds.
Mm-hmm.
It's that important. I saw a great technical boxing match, a frustrating match in the regard that I was sympathizing with each boxer and seeing how they were both like looking. Nah, I don't like it. I'll move. I'm looking. I'm setting up. Oh, he pulled out before I could spring the trap.
Right.
Or I could see him setting his trap, so I'm going to slide out. Mm-hmm. And they just kept noping each other. Nope, nope, nope,
Yep.
nope, nope, nope. And that can be frustrating for a non-boxing fan to watch. And I'm sympathetically frustrated. I could feel the tension through the television. Did you feel that tension in the arena?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. And it was a weird fight because, I mean, you can always tell the difference between a good fight and a not so good fight with how fast time moves. Where you're like, holy shit, is it the 9th round already? Because it's a good fight because you're just kind of locked in and you're tense. And that's how this fight felt. It didn't drag on at all before I knew it was over. But at the same time, I felt like the fight never started. Mm-hmm. And it almost made me want the fight. So, I mean, obviously I took Terrence by stoppage in the later rounds.
You
right?
and everybody else,
Yeah.
except for me. I don't know if you got that text I
Okay,
sent you
you
about.
backed off. You said, I saw him at the weigh and he looked big.
Hey, I did
changed my
back down.
mind.
But I told somebody at the gym, you can ask Coach Brian, I did say, I'm feeling that he's going to go the distance. And he said, oh man, stoppage in the 8th or 9th. I said, that's what everybody's saying. And then so when I texted you that, but when I read it in print, I was like, oh, that looks kind of dumb. But I should have ran with it because that was what my heart was saying. Because
you were right.
Remember I said last week, we don't know enough about Madrimov to say we know what's going to happen.
Yeah. So what I was going to say is that was the most logical outcome I saw, partly because Terrence has always done his thing when he's moved up in weight. It's never been too big for him. I didn't think this jump would be too big for him. He's got, an 8-year, 11-fight KO streak. Like that's something to consider. And I looked at Madrimov and saw like the holes in his game, right? Which is like the literal holes that in his offense where he likes to bomb punches. And he showed up and turned out to be a completely different fighter. So that didn't come to fruition. But I thought we did start to see that in the 9th and then the 11th and 12th, the championship rounds. And so I almost wonder, like the natural arc of the fight felt like it should have been 20 rounds. Do you know what I mean? And like the 10th and 12th were really like the 6th and 7th or whatever. And later I could see that the arc of the fight was Terrence probably stopping him.
Yeah, and you could see that in the face of the fighter there in Madrimov. You could see that the punches were starting to really get to him.
Yeah.
And he was marked up pretty good.
At the press conference, Terrence looked like nothing was on him.
Yeah, black don't crack, man. But
Yeah.
Madrimov, he was rocked up, dude.
He was. He was
those
just
sunglasses staying on.
Yeah, exactly.
So, well, I mean, it's had to be exciting to see in person, to feel that tension in the air and be like, and we all think we know a little bit about boxing, and you're like, well, if he needs to do this or he should do that. But you didn't have what I had, which was these freaking jokers on the commentator staff telling the story to you.
What were they saying?
Well, there was a lot of disagreement on the staff. You had Porter saying it's a clean sweep for Crawford.
For Crawford?
And then you had Sergio Mora saying, I don't know. I like what I'm seeing from Madrimov. I think he's putting some rounds together here. I think he's not allowing Crawford to shut him down. I think, and they were kind of going. He's like, I'm sorry to tell you, man, I disagree with you. And they're going back and forth. Unofficial scorecard had it about like the judges did, where they,
was that Mannix?
Yeah, and the last 2 rounds is what swung it. So, the staff was kind of painting a picture there of more of a casual thing, where they're like this attitude that the last time we saw Crawford in the ring, he dominated and destroyed a man in a violent display, and this time he didn't have to do that again to win. But I think this is what everybody wanted, and that's what these guys were echoing, which is why it's like they're like casuals on the microphone.
You're saying that they wanted to see him absolutely crush him like he did Spence in order to give him the fight? Because it sounds like Porter was handing it to him without anything close to that.
So I think that's what Mora was saying.
Right.
And, but Porter, I think maybe a little bit of his pride is on the line because, hey, if this man beat me, then he must be beating this guy too. He must be the best in the world. He must be the best thing that ever existed because if he's at all better than me, then he's literally God himself.
Right.
You know, so his own ego's on the line. Right?
That's how I feel about you in this podcast. How did you see the fight? Did you see it as a close fight, or did you think somebody was running away with it?
I remember telling the wife about midway through, I was like, Crawford's going to let this thing slip away unless he turns it on.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. He eventually turned it on. But this fight, you know what it was missing? The moment. There was no moment. There was no moment. There was tension, and then brief explosions, but there was never a moment, a big ooh or a big ah. There was never a Tyson Fury stumbling across the ring as Usyk is just swinging his life at him. You know, there was no moment. And that's, I think, what left everybody with a kind of a sour taste in their mouth. And then that's kind of spilling out online and people saying Crawford got away with the robbery. Crawford didn't do enough to win. You got to take it from the champ to be the champ. But if you score it round by round, it's almost reminiscent of our recent rewatch of Mayweather Castillo 1.
Yeah.
Where it was quiet. And how do you score the quiet rounds?
Yeah, for those that haven't checked it out on our YouTube page, we ran back Mayweather Castillo, the first fight, which is kind of heralded as a controversial fight that somebody might have got robbed, and we scored it open round by round with the commentary. And go check it out. But we're going to do more of those throwback fights. But it brings up a great point. I love this idiom: you got to take it from the champion, right? And I understand what it means. I get the sentiment behind it, but that's not a real thing. You don't score a fight the way you don't watch a fight for 12 rounds, then sit there and meditate and say, well, I kind of think it was close, so I'll give it to the champ. You score it round by round, and there's no tie goes to the champ in each round. Maybe some of these rounds were literally that close that you might as well just give it to Madrimov because it was that close.
Yeah.
But he probably won many of those rounds or won just as many as he lost. So there are 50-50 rounds. But I think, Crawford did just enough to kind of edge it out, particularly at the end of the fight, which it turns out was what he needed. And you're right, there were none of those moments. The closest was, Crawford probably had, 3 to 5 good flurries of full 3, 4, 5 punch combinations that looked like they did damage and got the momentum of the fight going. I think it was in the 8th or 9th. It almost looked like he stumbled him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, he got some power in there. And Madrimov just never really did that. He stayed behind single shots. He stayed really defensive and awkward the whole time. And he threw that bomber of a right hand, over a couple times that looked really sloppy. Maybe if he'd connected with one of those and rocked Crawford, but he just needed to put together like 10% more, and it would have been that much closer.
I don't think the guy threw a single combination of punches throughout the entire event.
2 right hands in a row is about the closest he got.
He was scoring with that lead rear, which is a great punch because it can surprise a guy. And, it did have an effect on Crawford. He was doing the nope or sticking his tongue out. Yeah. And he's got those little Coolio dreads that were flipping around and made the punch look pretty bombastic.
Oh, dude, live, the sweat in the air, like you could, because we're, you still find yourself watching it on the screen because the camera's like right in their face, right? And we're like pretty close. But you just see it go flying. Yeah. And you could hear their shots cracking.
Nice, dude. Oh, so cool. Man, so cool. Well, you watch in the replay, you can tell that they were. It was a rear hand blow, but it was scoring like a jab, where it was popping his head back and stuff, but it wasn't a power punch.
Right.
It was a rear hand lead, which is often just delivered kind of like a jab, but it was never followed up. It was just like this poke, and it popped him. Yeah, it's a scoring blow. You can't take that away from him, but it wasn't a momentum building. Combination. If he would have followed with a leaping left hook and a ripping right to the ribs, that would have been something. But he never put it together. You know why? Because he knew if he did, he'd get fucking counterpunched and rocked out of there.
That's 100% how I saw it. Is Madrimov literally showed up a different fighter. The fighter that I watched on tape that I knew Terrence would knock out is because of exactly what you just said. He's somebody that puts the pressure together, puts the punches together, cuts the ring off. He does have the awkward herky-jerky style, but he comes behind the jab, and then he starts throwing combinations. And Bud's gonna catch and counter and punch in between those punches and take him out. But he just didn't do that, which I thought, my hat is off to this dude. That is an amazing boxing IQ and amazing humility as a human being. To be like, all right, this is how I like to fight, but this dude's better than me, and he's going to fuck me up if I do that. So instead, I'm going to do this other thing. And it almost worked.
I mean, his ability to create that awkward rhythm with that upper body kind of surging and lunging and the shaking and that pot shot.
Yeah.
I mean, it was able to make a competitive fight out of it. you're right. If he would have brought his other style, his more aggressive style, he would have walked into an uppercut or a over the top check hook or something. And prophetically, Crawford said in an interview, because they did so much press leading up to this fight. You know, Crawford was on a media tour like I haven't seen before, and that's great for him. He's turning into a real star here. He finally deserves it. You know, he's always deserved it, and he's finally getting it. But he said something. They said, well, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And he says, I don't know. He's not going to fight me like he's fought everybody else. So we'll see who shows up, and I'll figure it out.
Smart.
And so, you know, they do a lot of film study. They have a great team. But these guys, they're on the next level with how they plan for fights and how they prepare. And you notice his corner never made anything, I don't know, like desperate. You know, they were very calm, very confident. And that spills over into the performance. His performance was calm and confident. Even when he got hit, he was confident. And I tell my fighters all the time, if you get hit, you make it look good. Right. You know? Right. Make it look like they got lucky and not like like you screwed up. Like you gave him a little favor. Right. You know, and that's what his energy was. So, I mean, I don't know if this is going to be a fight that people rewatch when they study the career of Terrence Crawford. It was missing the moment. It had a lot of tension. It had a lot of emotion. But as a fight, I feel Terrence Crawford won it fair and square. Yeah,
I agree. And by the margin that they gave it to him.
Eddie Hearn, he was a little upset.
I was going to say, you're talking about emotion. Most of that came from Eddie Hearn, man.
Yeah, buddy. Take it easy.
I know, crying into that Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah, why do all them fancy shirts look like pajamas? If I'm going to spend like $10,000 on my get-up, I better not look like I just rolled out of bed.
Dude, I used to think that until I saw him pacing around down there in the sun, and then I was like, oh, I get it. Yeah, give me some flowy white Cuban pants and, you know, whatever those shirts are.
Okay, so before we move on to the rest of the card, let's talk about the event in totality. And because what came before this fight wasn't a fight. It was a concert.
Yeah.
So tell me what it was like to see Eminem live in concert.
To see your idol, Marshall Mathers.
The real Slim Shady stood up.
Dude, I didn't know like half the songs he did.
So I heard the Abracadabra on the radio recently, and my kid loved it. Okay, because
that's intergenerational.
But I also recognize it was reminiscent of his older style. It was kind of playful.
Think so? I mean, the playfulness, but I felt like I was so confused when that song came out, and everybody who's like my age, right, like late 30s, was like, the old Eminem is back, like blah blah blah. I was like, bro, what do you mean the old Eminem? Like, what? This reminds you of like the Slim Shady LP? This reminds you of, bitch, I'm gonna kill you.
Oh, dude. I tried to show that to my kid in the car the other day, the Marshall Mathers LP, that song Kill You. I was like, oh, this one's a little rough to show the 11-year-old.
Dude, they played, the DJ there kept playing M's like oldest stuff, like the whole day. He was like playing his oldest stuff, and I was like, this is probably like low-key offensive. And most of it, like, I would say...
There's no women there anyway, so it doesn't matter.
But like, no, I mean to M, because you're like, bro, I'm not playing anything from your new catalog. I'm only playing your first 2 records. And and then it was like all probably 2/3 of the tracks like bleeped out. You can't hear anything, you know.
Yeah. So
no, it was cool. It was great energy.
I thought
like they hit the lights. You know what I mean? M comes out. The crowd went crazy. Everybody like rushed like kind of the field area, like the flats, and it was just packed and people were going nuts. It was good. And then they kept it like relatively short. I felt like, I don't know, what it was, 4 joints or something like that, and then back to it.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, the sound quality through the DAZN. Because I'm my relationship with DAZN has been troubled over the years.
Yeah, as a non-subscriber.
Well, it turns out my wife has been subscribed this whole time.
Are you serious? Oh my god!
So we've been having it anyway. So we watched it on DAZN. I paid for it because you don't try to duck a fight like this and get screwed up and get this shit locked up. So, but the sound quality was coming through real bad. It was weird.
That's how it sounded there.
Like. You know, live rap performance oftentimes, and every time probably, they have backing tracks going. And he had a live band, which is pretty sick, but...
who weren't doing anything.
You think those dudes were miming it too?
I think maybe the drums, like the top of the kit had some mic on it, but I was like, and I said it multiple times, I'm watching it and I'm looking at the guitarist and I'm like, there's no guitar playing in this part.
Because when the Mom Spaghetti song is dun, 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 they panned past him while I was playing, and I've been playing guitar since I was 12 years old, dude. I got a couple riffs in me, and I was like, I don't know, it was a little sus.
Dude, and then there were like other songs where there was no guitar, or like one there was no bass.
He had a guitar solo in one song, but it's fucking
they might have cut and put it on at that point. You know what I mean?
But, yeah. Well, I think it was overly produced because they had like this orchestration thing happening, and everything was like really grand, and so it was too much happening to come through cleanly.
Yeah.
To the point where you couldn't actually hear the rapping part, which is the whole thing, right? But I thought it was fun. I thought it was entertaining. But I ain't gonna lie, the time between the co-main event and the main event was a long ass time.
Yeah.
And at home and not being in the arena and experiencing the emotion, I was like, oh yeah, there's another fight.
Right. Yeah. Since I left, like I've heard a lot of people, seen a lot of people talking about how long it was, and it's funny because being there, it actually didn't feel that long. But I think that's just because there was so much going on in between the fights and stuff. Like, oh, you got to go get a beer, you got to go pay for this asparagus, you got to whatever. Like it didn't feel too bad. But I will say there was a couple times like. I think it was like the 6th round of like the Ruiz Miller fight, and they cut to like Pitbull like arriving, and I was like, what? This dude should be like warming up right now. Like this does not bode well, And so there were definitely some gaps. But this also happens when you have like a 6-fight headlining card,
right? So before Eminem performed,
hold on. Before we move beyond the main segment, I think I gotta ask, what comes next for Bud Crawford? He moves past this dude. He captures his 4th title in a 4th division. He's now so he got that belt, and he becomes the mandatory for Fundora, who has 2 belts. If he doesn't face him, he gets stripped of both. What does he do next?
Well, I think the path is clear. Undisputed at 154. Mm-hmm. No matter who stands in front of him, he's gonna try. And he's going to give it his best effort, and he's got a good damn chance of making it happen.
Who has the other belt?
It's another Eastern European, hard to say.
Yeah, dude who I don't know. Right?
Yeah, dude I don't know. Which is like sounds like
so that's
easy
2
picking.
fights to undisputed in a 3rd weight class.
Yeah, this
first male boxer of all time to do that.
I was a bit annoyed with all the Canelo talk in the broadcast. They brought it up constantly. They had Andre Ward on there, and they asked him what he thought about it. I mean, every other sentence they had to say. They asked His Excellency on the, and that guy got some mic time. Yeah, by the way, it was like
not just mic time. Did they show the award that he got?
The whole thing, and that's actually something I want to get into later after we talk about the fights. But it's like Canelo this, Canelo that. I saw a clip today where now Canelo was doing his press conference for the Belanga fight. Eddie Hearn is there, and he goes straight up. Canelo says hey, you've been talking about me all fucking week, and Eddie says, hey, we had to sell the fight, and he's like, yeah, I know. Like so they were. Because Madrimov isn't a name that they could say 1,000 times and have value.
Right.
They had to say a name of value, and they had to dangle this thing out there in front of everybody all night. But I'm not interested in that. I think it'd be entertaining for sure. But I think what Crawford is going to do next is unify at 154, and that's going to take some time. At his work rate in competition, that's going to take 2 years. By then, he'll be 39 years old.
If I were, and this is, obviously I haven't had a nice conversation with Bud about this, but if his pace is not dictated by him, right, meaning he would fight more frequently, his body recovers fast enough, whatever, I would tell him, make a fight with Fundora, announce it in the next 30 days. Fight before the end of the year. Fight Fundora. Now you got 3 belts.
November,
December, get that fight rolling. Now you got 1 more fight. Make that 3-4 months later. That's the easiest work. He will have worked probably backwards from tough, because Madrimov for sure is the toughest 154 pounder, I think.
No, he's way underrated. His record didn't reflect his ability, and he's a great boxer.
So now you've unified your 3rd division, absolute cemented your legacy in 2 fights within 8-9 months of each other ish. Then I go after the Canelo fight if I feel up to it.
For a retirement party.
For a retirement, payday. If you win, you're probably the GOAT, like literal GOAT of boxing. If you lose, no one will care. They won't fault you for it. You'll just say, oh, he's a lot stronger than I thought, and you retire.
Flew too close to the sun and went out on top.
Yeah.
But that's a good route, and I hope he takes something like that. They asked him straight up about the Errol Spence rematch. Yeah, he says, nope.
Yeah, he put a bunch of cold water on Canelo, too. He was like, yeah, I mean, if the money's right, whatever, but I don't.
Yeah, if the money's right, we'll have a fight.
Yeah.
Right now, I don't think we'll see him back in the ring right away. And a lot of people online are saying that fight didn't help sell the Canelo fight because it wasn't very entertaining to the general public.
All right, you want to hear I got 2 tinfoil hat comments about this fight.
Okay, let's hear them.
Number 1 is, I heard people saying exactly what you just said. I think he wasn't okay. His performance put himself out of Canelo contention by showing that he knows how to beat Canelo. Right? Because what he just did, that's exactly how he will beat Canelo. Canelo's way easier fight, in my opinion, than Madrimov. Scarier, because the dude clearly cracks harder, and probably harder to get respect, because I think Canelo has like a granite chin. But Canelo's not moving anything but his head, barely. You know what I mean? He's flat-footed. He's going to plod forward. It's probably easier to put together that type of performance.
Wow, plod forward, flat-footed.
Is that not Canelo?
Wow. I mean, that's a harsh critique of a guy with 50-some-odd fights, multiple world championships.
But he's walk you down.
That easy that Bud can fight him off the back foot?
No, I don't think it's that easy. I think it's a crazy fight.
But you think that's the game plan?
I think the game plan is the same, because I mean, even just watching this fight visually, you're kind of supplanting Canelo with him. You're like, oh, look at that, like, dude that's bigger than him, that like punches really hard, that he's like frustrating, right? And it's like, yeah, that's clearly what the game plan would be against Canelo. He's not going to stand toe to toe and trade with them, right? Canelo's like an unbelievable counterpuncher with, the ability to just rapid twitch, like in and out of range with his upper body and head movement,
yes,
right? And
true.
then punch anything you give him, including just your arms, and shut you down. And if you're the smart, and like that's what he did with Bivol, right? He fucked Bivol's arms up, but Bivol's is just a huge dude, right? Terrence, like Bud's not. That stuff's gonna break him down, but he's not gonna let him do that.
Yeah.
Because he's going to be way faster on the outside. And people, I think, they didn't look like, I was looking at this fight going, if I'm Canelo, I'm like, oh, I don't know about this. But everyone else is looking at it going like, ooh, I don't know if Bud can fight Canelo. Like, it's the opposite.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, that's definitely an interesting take on it. I think that the Canelo, at this point in his career, I think he has enough confidence, enough experience that I honestly believe, I don't think he's worried about anybody except for his bank account.
You don't think he's worried about Benavidez?
Okay, I take that back. I take it back. And
I think he's worried about Bud.
Well, he's worried about his legacy as well. You know?
I think he knows he would beat Bud. He's pretty sure.
Well, like he said, what does it bring? If I win, they say I beat a little guy. If I lose, they say I lost to a little guy.
And that's exactly right. And I wouldn't take it if I was Canelo.
No, I don't even care. I don't even care about that, man.
No.
It's not. I think it's an interesting legacy fight because it's the name, and it's the biggest name closest to him in weight. But maybe over the next couple of years, while he's busy doing this and doing that, I mean, I'd be more impressed with him going in there and taking care of business against Virgil Ortiz
Or Boots.
That would be for me a more interesting, more exciting, edge of your seat fight than the Canelo showdown. So
at the end of the day, he should unify and stay active until retirement. Like, you know what I mean? Fight Fundora, fight this other dude, unify, then fight like Virgil Ortiz and Zoo and Boots, and then this would be like crazy. This is like my fantasy, right? And then Ryan Garcia gets his fight, and that's your retirement party. You know what I mean? Like you put a body of work together like that, and you just leave us all sitting there being like, well, we can't even think of any names at 147 or 54 we want you to fight, so I guess you're the best.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, he's definitely cemented himself already. I mean, as the star of the style of boxing he's doing, which is reminiscent of the old Mayweather way, where it's like, you're going to see 12 rounds. And I was happy to see him go 12 rounds. I really wish I would have stood by.
You think that's his style? But he's riding on a 11 or 8-year 11 fight KO streak.
It's because he was a weight bully.
You think so?
Come on, man.
He wasn't a weight bully against Spence.
Well, I mean, he was okay when it was at 140.
I think you'll see more stoppages from Terrence Crawford. Not more at 154 than you saw at 147, because I think he knocked out every single person at 147, right? Yeah. But I'm saying you'll see more in his career as it goes on.
Yeah, okay, I'll take it back. Maybe not a weight bully, but every knockout streak has to come to an end. And his came to an end in a great way. He won the fight.
Yeah.
Remember when we were talking a couple of weeks ago about Gary Russell Jr. and I said this KO streak's going to have to come to an end?
Yeah.
Well, he had come to an end for him and it came to a loss.
Right.
So
no, that's a good point.
It came to an end for him, but it came in a win. And I would like to see more fans develop an appreciation for a 12-round boxing match.
So that leads me perfect segue to my second tinfoil hat comment. This one's thicker tinfoil.
Got that extra thick restaurant.
Yeah, I'm picking up I'm blocking some serious waves with this one. Crawford could have stopped him but he chose not to back up his homie Shakur.
Shakur's like,
Shakur's ringside like, I love it. See, 12 rounds. This is great boxing.
but Crawford connected with as many punches per round as the young kid throws.
Do you think
total.
so? I bet Shakur landed more punches in Haratunian than Crawford landed in this fight.
Well, I saw the compy box, which, when we like it, we like it. When we hate it, we hate it. But
It's always wrong.
It's always wrong, but it's hopefully somewhat right. And in a fight like this, how wrong can you be? They only threw so many fucking punches. But the stats were pretty close. It was like 7-5, 7-9, 11-10. But Crawford was throwing way more punches, which lends to the fact that Madrimov was actually more accurate.
Yeah.
But he was so conservative.
Yeah, you sent me these stats, and I thought it was really interesting on the back of the Conceição Foster fight, because on that fight, we're sitting there going like, I don't care that this dude is throwing punches. He's hitting air. He looks like an idiot. There's no reward for that. Whereas in this fight, I found myself feeling the exact opposite. Like, nah, man, he stayed busy with the jab. He outworked him. He threw. So it's like, God, you can't have it both ways, but you kind of know it when you see it, right? When it's like more meaningful versus when it's BS.
And boxing isn't just numbers. That's why, it's interesting. The Olympics has been happening lately, and the Olympics make sense like when it's a race and the first man that crosses the line wins. Okay? But boxing ain't like that. It's much more subjective. And the judges are trying to make decisions in real time based on this whole thing that's happening. And you talk about this tension that you could cut with a knife. Well, the judges are feeling it too.
Yeah.
And they have whatever internal biases they have, and they think, well, damn, I want to work another one of these Turkey Al Shalik shows, so maybe I'm going to lean to the favorite.
Right.
Who knows what these guys are thinking? That's what Eddie Hearn was saying. They filled it out before the fight even started.
Right.
But, I think I don't think that theory holds any water. Mm-hmm. Okay, I don't think he was holding back on the KO. I think if he could have got him out of there, he would have got him out of there.
Oh, I mean, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
But I think it is. I just thought it was interesting that, obviously I pay close attention to the Shakur hate because I think it's interesting, and I like to see the barometer of what people think is good boxing and bad boxing and all those kind of things. And I thought this fight was, pretty reminiscent of a Shakur fight. I think it was more tense because you believe that Crawford could have gotten him out of there and vice versa. And in a lot of Shakur's fights, you're just like, I don't think anybody's even capable of it. So there's just less tension. But the actual way the fight plays out is pretty similar.
There was a moment, now that I recall, an awkward moment, in which Terrence Crawford was on his butt in the ring.
Yeah, he tripped.
Because of an awkward foot entanglement, which resulted from him standing in the southpaw stance.
Yeah.
And we didn't pick the fight right on our official bet sheet, but we did pick the stance right. He started in orthodox for about 38 seconds.
I know, yeah.
And I was like, we can't get nothing right tonight.
Yep.
Me and Dust were blowing the whole show. But then when he switched to southpaw, I texted you, I said, southpaw.
Yep. And then I thought he was going to switch back.
He did for like
a
brief
second. But I thought he was going to make a decisive switch in the 9th round and then stop him.
Yeah.
Like that's when the momentum would, and you'd be like, oh, he transformed. Now it's over.
Yeah.
But he never got that comfortable. But he stayed southpaw the whole fight, which Madrimov threw like, half a jab the whole fight? I mean, he just shut that jab down.
And that's how you do it. That's one of the great things about being in the open stance battle. It makes a jab real hard to land. At the gym, we do jab sparring all the time. And if it's an open stance, I say, you better not be able to land a jab.
Right.
It should be a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
In a jab versus jab with only footwork and an open stance.
But Crawford was landing his jab.
Yeah, because he's a switch hitter and he can punch a little different with both hands.
Yeah.
But hell of a fight, hell of an entertaining night. And, I don't think that it was, it lacked a moment. The real story is the result. Mm-hmm. Now he's a 3-weight world champion.
Yep.
And that's really amazing, and he's a living legend in our time.
Oh, 100%.
And if you want to come on the air anytime, bud, you want to do another media tour.
Yeah.
We're both friendly with you. I met you once, but you guys, you're friends with Dust on the internet, so hit us up. Come by the shack. Next time you're in Portland, come by the shop.
Yeah, come join the pod.
Cut it up, man.
Should we run through the other fights?
Yeah.
Co-headliner.
Co-main event was a fucking amazing fight. Mm-hmm. I mean, what a night. And a huge fight. And we picked it wrong, and I'm sorry to the kid, but I thought that the little pitbull was going to do a little bit more.
Yeah, I got to say, I'm really happy with the outcome. I was worried at the end that there was going to be a robbery. I saw him when I'm surprised it was even a split decision, candidly. It was it was an incredible fight, and I don't know why I kind of I threw myself in with the lot of being like, yeah, this is a pit bull stoppage, and I just kind of saw it, right? I mean, but I don't know if it's a 140 issue and he needs to go back to 135. Like he was connecting. I mean, he was getting outboxed. He was having trouble cutting off the ring and closing the distance and all those things, but he landed what he wanted to land several times, and it just didn't do what it needed to do. And it, got away from him. And I don't know where he goes from here. I don't know if I feel like I got duped from the hype train of watching him just put Rolly Romero to sleep, which is not as impressive as maybe we thought it was, or,
Yeah, in retrospect, we were considering Valenzuela coming up in weight for the first time. We were considering all these factors, but when he saw him in the ring next to each other, he said, "Man, this looks like the other guy's in the wrong weight class."
Exactly.
The height difference, the reach difference, and Valenzuela looks strong in there. Mm-hmm. He looks like he's really come into his strength, and looked like a really prepared fighter. And what a team he had. He's working there with Garcia Gym, and then he's got his local coach up here, Coach Mario from Azteca Boxing in Washington. And they put together the perfect game plan. I've never seen a guy box the perfect fight in such a high stakes environment, and I had a personal connection to it, so of course I'm invested in it. And I'm saying, don't blow it, kid. You're doing perfect. And round after round after round, he just kept getting it done.
Yeah,
he did a similar performance to what the kid Jermaine Ortiz did to Teofimo Lopez, but he threw punches.
Yeah, no, it was
the same footwork, but he threw punches.
Yep.
If the kid Ortiz would have done a little bit more punching like young Rayo did, he could have got it done that night too. He'd turn the corner, light him up, and leave. Turn the corner, light him up, and leave. And you kind of, frustrated watching Pitbull saying, where's the adjustment? If he could have shifted into southpaw, done a little Dempsey roll, and come with an overhand left, but that left hook was glancing off the shoulder of the taller fighter all night long. Mm-hmm. And when he did connect with it, you're right, he did connect a couple times. It wasn't knocking the kid out.
No. Because he didn't follow up with anything, and that's a perfect fight comparison and a perfect illustration. Like anyone that thinks that Ortiz got robbed that night, go run both these fights back to back, and you'll see the clear difference between the two of them. I got the feeling, obviously on one hand I was like looking for Pitbull to get the stoppage just for my bet, right? Even though on the other hand I was like, oh man, this guy's just boxing so beautifully. But I kept getting the feeling like, oh, Pitbull, yeah, exactly. If you were to switch stances, cut the ring off with just an open gate, like walk and, crack him on the shoulder, but then go to the body and then go back upstairs and just put it together in the corner and hold him there. And I kind of tires, like spend some of that gas tank. I feel like you could put something together, damage him or look for a stoppage or the ref to freak out or whatever. But he just didn't. He just hunted, got one shot. And some of the shots he landed, at least from where I was sitting, I was like, oh, shit. Oh, he's fine. Yeah. He's just like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's maybe why one of the judges gave it to him, because some of those punches were seriously devastating, but the kid took him well.
Yeah.
And he did hit him low one time, and I thought, well, that's a hell of a game plan.
Yeah.
You want to slow down the guy's footwork, hit him in the nuts.
Yeah, do something.
And then the referee was a dick. The referee was like, come on, that's why you wear a cup.
Yeah.
You got a cup on.
Yeah.
Come on. I'm like, I never heard a ref say that in my life. You got a cup on. It's like, yeah, motherfucker, I get 5 minutes if I want
5 minutes.
it.
Give me my time,
and he's
man.
like, you're all right. You ready to go? You're all right. Man, I would have been like, hey, you cool your jets here, champ.
Yeah,
I'm on my way to a world championship. But again, Rayo showed his guts, and he got back in there, and he took care of business. And you know what? Perfect game plan, perfect execution. Hats off to him and his team. Young world champion. It's a great boxing story. Coming off a knockout loss, a controversial loss, gets the decision against Colbert gets his revenge against Colbert with a KO, and now he gets in there and he's a world champ. But they got that rematch coming, and maybe
is there a rematch clause on this fight?
I'm not sure.
I don't think there is.
But I heard the kid's calling for it.
Yeah, Pitbull definitely called for it right away.
I wouldn't give it to him. I wouldn't give it to him. I'd
move on. I like him.
It was such a dominant performance. What are you going to give him? Another chance to knock you out?
I like him as a champion at 140. I do think, just talking about that division, not to get sidetracked, I think Tio cleans up everybody that's got a belt at 140 now.
Look at how small Pitbull is in there against Rayo.
Dude, I have to say, having him come off back-to-back heavyweight fights and then seeing them in the ring from where we were sitting, which was slightly elevated from the ring, you borderline couldn't see Pitbull.
He was underneath the ropes.
He's under, no joke. He's underneath the top rope.
ropes.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was, and no short jokes, man. I'm 5'7", but and a half, but
and a half.
But it was wild. Yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe back to 135 if you can. That just seems
Well,
like...
now that the title's gone, it makes sense to go back to 135. You know, you don't have to defend the title anymore. That's
Yeah.
okay. Go on back. Now, Rayo, he's got his work cut out for him. There's a lot of contenders in that weight class, and you know, hopefully he can hold it together. Hats off to the kid. You know, congratulations and big ups to the local kid. You know, take care of business.
Yeah, shout out Barrow. It was great performance. Great, yeah, on every aspect. Toughness, boxing.
For me, it was fight of the night as from a guy watching at home.
That was fight of the night.
For me, that was the fight of the night.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we can skip over Andy Ruiz, Jarrell Miller. That was definitely not the fight of the night.
I did predict it as the potential snoozer of the night.
You did, and we should have. Thinking back to our episode, we didn't call out that it would be a draw, but we kind of called out that it would just be like BS and go the distance, and we should have actually put money on the draw.
Yeah, my notes on that were pretty mostly I noticed that Ruiz got tired, and the ref was really working against him because. Miller was roughhousing a lot. He was pushing, shoving, and really bullying. And when Ruiz would try to get his space by throwing up a forearm, he'd say, "Andy, pull it back, bring the arm down." And he's like, "Motherfucker, he's roughing me up, and I got to rough him up too."
Right.
Did the referee break the action at all during that fight? Can you think of one break? Did he say step back, break? No. Miller just leaned and pushed and shoved. There was hardly a break in the action. That's why Ruiz got so tired. He should have done a little bit more. That was in my notes for the Rail fight. Perfect game plan, great job of movement, and forcing the break with the headlock. He forced the break by grabbing the head.
Right.
That gave him space to start again.
Right.
That's actually part of the game plan. That's not a movement of desperation. You got a fighter who's being a pressure fighter. If you want a break, you got to force a break. Tie him up. Fucking throw him in a headlock, push him down a little bit.
Right.
Referee give you
easier to do if you're taller, right?
Yeah, Ruiz wasn't taller.
No,
but he didn't tie him up, and when he tried, the referee said, "Quit fucking doing it."
I thought
These
Miller
refs
was
were
ahead.
tough.
I thought Miller was ahead by several rounds. When they read the scorecards, I was shocked. I thought Miller was going to take it by a couple rounds.
Yeah, and the story of the fight now is Ruiz's extremely violently broken hand.
Man, when they showed that, I was like, I don't even know what that is.
I mean, that is the failure of the hand wrapper. That guy ain't never getting the call again.
You think that's the hand wrap?
That's why we wrap the hands. The metacarpals in the back of the hands aren't supposed to TP up like that.
Oh, is that what it was?
It was the back of one of the bones in the top of his hand popped up like this.
Oh, man.
That's what that big bump is.
I was looking at it like it was somehow like, what is it, the ulnar? Like the forearm bone, like coming forward or something like that?
Yeah, no, it was in the hand. It was up back here on the hammer of his hand was broken.
Ugh.
There's how many bones in your hand?
Yeah.
But the metacarpals are the long ones. And the hand wrap, why it's so important, is because when you take a shot into the knuckles, the force, you want it to transfer straight up into the forearm.
Right.
But those small bones are going to bow under that pressure.
Right.
Like and putting a hard cast of tape and gauze on top of that and really making it nice and firm doesn't allow those to come up. And it forces the transfer of the power and that energy up into your forearm. So whoever wrapped his hands that night, man, I mean, we can't be perfect every night. I hope it wasn't his first day on the job because it won't be. It would have been his last.
Wow.
You know.
Well, good thing for him. At his pace, he'll get a nice 2-year break now before he fights again.
Yeah. Whether we were talking about the rematch, nobody like, no thanks.
Yeah, no one wants to
Nobody
see
wants
that.
to see
Honestly, there's not really a place for them in the landscape right now. I mean, Ruiz needed to come out and have a super dominant performance to put himself back in contention or in conversation. That didn't happen. Miller kind of is what he is. I actually like Miller as kind of this like gatekeepery guy. I thought he might as well have beat Dubois. I mean, it could have gone either way.
Well, he threw in the towel basically on himself there at the end of that fight.
Yeah, exactly.
He was like, I'm done here. Just punch me until the referee calls it off.
But he was up on all the scorecards, and if he could have just avoided that one moment, he would have won the fight, right? So it's like 15 seconds difference between him winning or not winning. So to me, I'm fine if he wants to stay around and be that guy. Like he can fight Jared Anderson next, or whatever. Put him back.
The big baby battle, dude.
The big baby battle. That's a great fight. Like, that's fine. But Ruiz and him specifically, that style, like, who could? No, thank you.
Never again.
Boring as hell.
Never again. Well, let's talk about the other heavyweight
I
fight.
thought that was the fight of the night. Just
Really?
because it was so much action, so crazy. I mean, it borderline blew my mind seeing Jared Anderson fall through the ropes like that.
Wow.
Now, shout out you for taking this pick. Phenomenal pick. We talked about it on the pod. We saw the upset coming. This was a dude who was being slept on. This is classic, like, well, I know one guy's name, right? But you saw it coming all the way, and that is exactly how it played out. And this dude looked like Holyfield, the older version,
Yeah.
just like,
That's a great comparison. I mean, he just arm punching his way to victory. You know, what a violent display. I mean, this is like a coach's nightmare when you're like, oh, fuck, my guy is in deep water right away.
Yep.
Because the kid looked sharp in the beginning, Anderson. And he had a good game plan. He was going to the body. He was moving a lot. He switched stances. He's showing some different looks. He looked way smaller in there, but he looked a hell of a lot faster. And the other man's like, you know, an ogre, and he's just he doesn't care if you hit him in the belly.
Nope.
But man, once he started connecting, it was like, oh no. Like his neck is twisting sideways. This kid is getting damaged.
Yeah.
In that first round knockdown, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
But then the kid made a good showing of himself. He showed a lot of heart. He got back up, and he actually boxed really nice.
I think he won the next 2 rounds after that. I actually ran this fight back because it was short. No, because I wanted to see it up, really up close. And I thought he won the first round till the knockdown, obviously.
Yeah.
And then randomly came back and really, I thought won the next 2 rounds.
Did you see the little footwork he did in the third round? He did the step around,
He did
shuffle,
this-
slide, bam. The
Yep.
thing we practice in the gym, the thing fighters dream about doing. He did that after getting knocked down by this nightmare of an opponent.
Yeah.
It's like, holy shit, what a good fucking
Yeah.
display of recovery.
Yeah. So let's see, first, second, third. I think he actually won the fourth too. And then it was just lights out.
Oh,
And you
buddy.
could kind of see it. Like, even though he was winning them, you were still like, oh, I don't know. Because something about Bacoli's punches, man, they just hit with that ferocity that it just doesn't matter. And I mean, I don't know what the reach differential was, but Jared looked longer and faster. And he needed to just absolutely stay on the outside the whole time. And he just has too many glaring defensive flaws that you and I have pointed out for the past 3 years of watching him fight. And none of them have ever really gotten addressed. And this guy knew it. And Bacoli was just like, yeah, I'm just going to let him do whatever he wants. And eventually I'll find an uppercut because this dude pulls straight back with his head right up in the air.
Yeah, and he said so himself after the fight.
Yeah.
A humble post-fight interview from him. Yeah, I noticed that, while he had made a recovery, it still felt like watching a man walk a tightrope over the Grand Canyon. And you were kind of like, oh, fuck, he's going to fall. And when he did, I wasn't too surprised. But heavy KO, nasty punching from Bacoli. And really, I mean, I have a whole thing I can go off about here about how this thing that the Turkey Al-Shalik is bringing into this, fighters fighting a little bit tougher competition. Fighters like Jared Anderson were brought up in the old way.
Yeah.
And now
The top rank
guys
guy.
like him, there's a lot of guys like him.
Yep.
That are going to have a hard time transitioning to this new world, whether it's going to happen or not. It might happen, where Turkey is trying to build this more competitive environment for boxing. If you come up in a protected system and all of a sudden the protection is gone, and that's no problem. There's no shame in losing a fight. That's okay, but the world isn't there yet.
Yeah.
And these transitionary boxers are going to have a real hard time. I think you're going to see a lot of fighters who were like 30-0, all of a sudden over the next 5 years being like 30-8,
That's a great segue, which we won't take, but into the fight coming up this weekend with Virgil Ortiz, because I wonder if we got another person like that. Because I agree with you 100%. I'm looking at a lot of boxers now and saying like, yeah, you never lost a fight, but who have you fought?
Yeah.
Right? Which is the question you should always ask anyways, but it becomes more and more important when you start to actually get the matchups that you want to see. And this was for sure one of them. And no shame in that. Jared Anderson is like 24 years old. Like, he can do whatever he wants. If he wants to retire because that's enough CTE for a lifetime, hats off to him, man. He's been very clear since the beginning. He doesn't love boxing. He's literally in it to make money. Nothing wrong with that. And if he wants to dust it off and fix those flaws and come back, I have no doubt that he could be a phenomenal heavyweight. He showed a ton of attributes in this fight that if he could have cleaned it up, I could easily have seen him winning.
I don't know. I'd be thinking, man, he's too big to do it, but he was more like a cruiserweight. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you look at those big body boys, I don't know if he's cut out for that.
He's pretty big, though.
I know he's big, but I don't think he's cut out for that.
Like, he's not getting down another class.
No, absolutely not. But
Yeah.
what I'm saying is, like, what I saw that night is a guy who shouldn't be fighting top tier heavyweights.
No, you
got to be able to take top tier heavyweight punches all night long. And that kid, he's 24 years old. Like you said, if his heart's not in it, then get out of there, kid, because it ain't worth it.
Do you think that he could go back to being protected?
I don't know. Once the veil, once you see the wizard, do you still believe? You know,
because that's the rough part about taking a fight
behind the
like
curtain?
that. And I obviously give him immense credit for taking that fight. I mean, he knew what was at stake and all that, and who he was going to fight. But yeah, if you're really just in it for the money, you might be like, hey, you know what? Oh, I mean, this is probably his biggest payday too, right? So maybe this is the smart move. But at a certain point, you're like, man, can you just keep bringing me blown up cruiserweights for me to knock out, right? Get me to like 30-0 with 28 knockouts, and I'll be making whatever $500-600 a fight. And
I don't know if the turkey thing's going to kick in and really stick around, but it's nice to see the system get a shake up. But I know it's going to be hard on a lot of these fighters that come up protected, because it's not nice to see a guy get knocked out like that. I don't like it.
No,
it doesn't bring me joy. Though I did call the fight, and I was proud of that. But I still don't like watching a guy get his neck cranked around like that. It's hard to watch.
So what's next? Bakoli Zhang?
That would be a hell of a power puncher fight. And Zhang all day. He's got much better movement. And he's big enough to handle the punches that are coming back at him. But I think the big baby battle is what they need to make.
Yeah. So you want to see Anderson come back in like a year against
Yeah, and whoever wins is the only person that can call himself Big Baby anymore. The other guy's got to get a new
That's
nickname.
actually a fire like conversation for the presser, where they say like side bet.
Yeah.
Whoever wins, you got to change your name.
Change your fucking name, dude.
Yeah. I feel like, I mean, doesn't Miller just get it because wasn't he Big Baby like 10 years before
Yeah.
Jared was born?
Well, big power from the big man. Nasty KO.
Yeah. Excited
And,
to see
so-
where he goes with his career.
Did
and
the
what's next
fucking
for
crowd
him.
go wild when that happened?
Yeah, it was crazy.
Because there was not a lot of knockouts that night.
No, the only other one was 2 fights before that with Andy Cruz.
Facts.
Stopped him.
Okay. So before that, though, we can talk about David Morrell versus Hot Rod.
So redeem myself for the bad Crawford pick with this pick. Everybody had the under 4.5 rounds. I thought that didn't make any sense. I'm not sure Morrell. I mean, this is actually a great segue from what you were just talking about. Somebody who, who was he really fighting? Yeah, he was walking dudes down. They were a lot smaller than him, throwing big shots with total disregard and stopping them in the second round. Great. But who did you do that to? Now you're moving up in weight against a veteran who can take those shots, has movement. Honestly, Hot Rod showed a whole other game plan. He was like, oh, bouncy, this frustrates you? No problem. 12 rounds of that.
Yeah.
I thought he won the fight, to be honest, or if it was at least closer than what the judges saw. But regardless, that's a prospect that should stay a prospect and not a contender, and probably doesn't belong in there with David Benavidez, who he's been calling out mercilessly. And, over 5 or over 4.5, that was like pretty obvious.
That was a great call. And I was watching it, and watching that fourth round, and Morrell really took his foot off the gas, because I think he realized, oh, this guy's not going to fall over easy, and I might have a long night ahead of me. Yeah, I was watching it, and I really like the way David Morrell punches. He's got a great crispy punch. It's got snap, crackle, pop, man. It's just really good looking shot.
Like turning it over.
Yeah, just the mechanics of his punches. They look really good, and he's bringing it. He's not a lazy puncher, and he's got snap on his shots. And I thought that he looked good at 175. He looked good in his body. He looked good in the ring. But this kid Hot Rod, that's his nickname. We should have known that last week. It's one of the greatest nicknames of all time. Because I can't pronounce his name. Let's call him Hot Rod.
Fosdick.
Yeah, Hot Rod. So I thought he showed a great IQ, though, dealing with this young power puncher. He's definitely been around, and he knows what he's doing in there, and he was able to go to the distance. But this is what they point to when they say power doesn't carry up in weight. Mm-hmm. And it's reminiscent of the other David Benavidez when he went up to the same weight class transition and couldn't get the old veteran out of there. Yeah. These guys don't fall over. 2 things are against them. They're veterans, and they're big enough to take the shots. Mm-hmm. But I think the David versus David battle is on the horizon. It will probably take a couple of years to happen, but that'll be a really fun fight. And maybe they can just say it when it's over, only one guy can be called David anymore.
You got to change your name on your birth certificate.
Got to change that shit, bro. You're Jeff now.
I think if that fight happens tomorrow, Benavidez just smokes him. I
don't know, man. I think you're right.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be an entertaining fight.
Yeah.
And if they could fight at this stage in their career, if Turkey throws some cash on the table, they might be able to make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I'd watch it for sure.
That's what we need to see. We need to see young guys fight each other, because it's okay to lose, champ. Fight him again. Fight him 3 times. I don't fucking care. This marinating fights for a decade nonsense is what's killing the sport. So let the Turkey come in, sprinkle some cash on your ass, and get in the motherfucking ring.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. The O got to go. And then Andy Cruz, first fight on the official card. And this is a prospect that is jumping right in. I think is ready for a title fight. He is the real deal. I mean, he can step up in competition. I don't know what's next for him. I think Keyshawn would probably be a great fight for him.
I mean, they beat him 4 times in the amateurs.
Let's go.
I mean, but he looked real nice in there. He lost momentum in the middle rounds, though, and he had to really fight against, some adversity there. He had to overcome some adversity. He had to really figure things out. But it actually worked in his favor because as he began to struggle, Moran began to get confident. And getting confident against a counterpuncher can be a recipe for disaster.
Right.
And that's when Cruz was able to do what he did. And, man, he put that dude on weird legs. And left him, he's like, I'm just going to walk this way, and then I'm going to go that way. And the ref is like, no fucking way. Great stoppage. Yeah. But, I did have a note there. After Haney smoked him and after his reaction to that punch, I said, the kid's got a suspect chin. Suspect chin. I mean, he clearly, I don't know if he can take an elite level punch.
Yeah. And that's fine. That's who they've purposely been putting Cruz in there with. And that's why I say it's time to, keep step it up. Step it up a little bit. Maybe 1, maybe 2 more fights and then a title shot, I think.
Yeah, but they were all really good, entertaining fights. I mean, just, the worst as far as entertainment value goes was Ruiz versus Miller, but I still watched, I was kind of working on my chili in the dinner that night, but I got an open kitchen. I can see the TV.
And basically a card in a way full of upsets. I mean, either the guy people didn't think would won, or people missed how the guy was going to win.
Yeah,
right. In every fight except for Cruz,
because they were competitive matches and it wasn't the top ranked special.
Yeah,
and. Man, they put on quite a show. They gave away a car. They had fireworks blasting off like the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. I mean, they really kept the energy alive in there. You almost won a car, right? The guy was in the same section
close.
as you?
It was so close to us.
Wow.
Yeah, like we were 1 row down and like 4 seats over.
So let's talk about the real winner of the night.
Turkey
Saudi
Arabia. I know the whole night I was wondering, is fellatio even legal in Saudi Arabia?
Because they were stroking this man.
I know. Yeah, somebody came up and interviewed me for Saudi TV, and the second I did it, I was like, I probably shouldn't have done that.
What? Tell me about this. What the hell is this all about?
This person ran up.
Did you plug the pod?
Oh, of course, brother. That's the only reason I did it. Yeah, I did the whole thing in Hebrew. No, I'm just kidding. So this woman ran up on me and had like the cell phone with the little mic, and was like, "Hey, can we interview really quick we want to talk about like Saudi Arabia's influence on boxing?" And I was like, "Okay." And so she just started asking me, whatever. And I said, "Oh, I'm Dust from That's Boxing Podcast." I had the shirt on. And I don't know what I said. I just said like, "Hey, it's a lot of." He's clearly a genuine fan, and he's bringing a lot of money into the sport, which is revitalized it in a way. We're getting the fights that we want to see. And then I said, of course, I got business ideas, brother. Hit me up. That's boxing.com.
Yeah, that's my man.
Yeah,
nice work.
So we'll see.
We'll get that call soon. I think it's strange, and hopefully he doesn't listen to this podcast because I got some opinions about this, and I don't have any hard feelings against the guy. I don't know him personally. There's definitely a culture difference here, and you can't really be judging people's body language and behavior because they're not from where I'm from. But I don't like the way people be stroking this dude off so hard. They put Eminem on his lap, bro, like a pet.
I know.
And then I seen him doing the same thing in Saudi Arabia with Anthony Joshua. I'm like, bro, it's like money can't buy you friends. Well, apparently it can.
Well, I think the question would be, if you were him, would you feel good about that? Right? Like, yeah. I think it would be fun to sit next to Eminem front row and watch a Terrence Crawford fight. Like, that sounds good. Like, my next birthday, you can get me that. That sounds nice. But like, you want that genuine experience. Like, you're actually, you want to sit with your friend. So I don't know how he processes the information. If he takes it as like, everyone genuinely likes me, I doubt it. He's probably smart enough to see that's not true, right?
Bro, I got my tinfoil hat right now. Turki Al-Shalik is the Minister of Sports and Entertainment. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a whole Netflix special about this in about 5 years when they'd be like, so they gave this guy unlimited access to the bank accounts. He was supposed to do this whole sports thing to bring people to the country. This fool just went to America and hung out with Eminem the whole time. And he put together these dream boxing matches, and he sat ringside, and he was given all these trophies and belts, and they sang songs for him, and they loved him so much. And then they found out, after they reviewed the statistics and stuff, not one single person was interested in actually going to Saudi Arabia after all this boxing was over.
I hear what you're saying, and you're definitely not wrong. Like, boxing is like a super weird, because they did the Live Tour, right? They did golf. right? And that
Yeah,
kind
I've
of
heard
made
about that.
sense.
And they did like car, like some kind of like
I don't know.
F1 racing too, I think.
That's probably not a bad one too. But the golf, I was like, all right, yeah, you're trying to get like the business whites of the country, right? Boxing, I don't know who you're going for, but when you're there, when you're at the stadium and it's completely sold out right before the main event, and they play the Saudi Arabian national anthem, I don't know that you can quantify what that does to the brains of everybody in there, but it creates a cultural parity between
familiarity.
Yeah, and it just says like, we understand, like we're all interested in the same thing and whatever. I think that they understand that this is like 100-year game in terms of cultural acceptance in the West, and then this is part of it.
Yeah. But how did you feel about like him getting a WBC belt and inducted into the Hall of Fame? I was like, those are kind of things that are supposed to take multiple years to generate, and not just like putting on one big event in LA. I feel like all these associations are like, we have to attach ourselves to this man now.
Yeah.
Because this man
100%.
has the money.
Yeah.
And that
100%.
reminds me of like how people used to treat, we don't, whatever. I'll skip that. But
if I were him,
no politics on the pod.
No politics. If I were him, I might turn some of that stuff down, but then I remember like, a big reason he's doing it is what we just said, right? Is to like intertwine and integrate. And so wasn't he like the first non-boxer inducted? Is that what they said?
I mean,
they said something like that. Like he's the first whatever promoter or something which is kind of crazy. Like is Don King not in there? But, that's the reason he's doing it. So I don't think he can say no to it. Like that's the point, is to be over there. And that's where I was coming from when they asked me that question, is I'm like, look, I could say a bunch of how weird this is type of stuff, because it is. But at the end of the day, I'm so glad he chose boxing and not whatever shot put, whatever sport I don't care about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we do benefit from it. I think change is hard for people, and change can be weird. It's kind of like having a new stepdad or something. And you're like, what is this? What happened to Bob Arum and his usual bullshit that we're used to? Doesn't mean Bob was great. It's just weird and different. And I think some of the pageantry for that man himself has always kind of given me a weird vibe.
Yeah.
Because typically, like, even like when, what's his name? Jake Paul, like ring walked with Amanda Serrano. I was like, what are you doing there? Get out of there. This isn't for you.
Right.
This is for the fighters.
Right.
You're supposed to be in the back. You want to fucking get the pageantry? Get in the ring, motherfucker. That's the guy who gets the fucking trophies.
Except
everybody
for
else, like myself, I gave up on trophies, man. I don't want the trophies. I want my fighters to get the trophies, but I don't want the fucking trophies.
Right.
I don't want the interviews. My job is in the shadows, and I'm okay with that. But this guy, he's got as much accolades as anybody else.
It's just fighting. Yeah. At that point, it's hard to know if he's a selfish man or a selfless man, because he knows 2/3 of the people watching are watching for him. And so he knows he has to do that to,
Yeah. And I'm sure he's under a lot of pressure to perform and show back home. And that's a cultural thing too. Like, I don't completely understand, but I'm sure that they're like, you're kicking some ass. Look at those trophies, bro.
Right. Yeah. Like you got, like you're being accepted.
Yeah.
Which, really he is by and large. I think it'll be really interesting. Like, picture the next 3 years, Amazon drops the PBC deal. They don't want to do it anymore, right? ESPN announces they're not doing boxing anymore because they're pretty close to not doing boxing anymore as it is. HBO's already out and Showtime's already out.
Dude, on ESPN, when I'm got to go find boxing, I just like the all sports. You like click to the right, and you go click. You got to go to like the 10th thing to find the little boxing glove. You got to pass MMA. You got to pass freaking bowling, equestrian. I'm like, give me the boxing. It should be at the top.
Yeah, and when they do the primetime cards, they cut in like maybe the co-headliner and then the main one. Like that's it. They keep it so brief, so tight, because they're like, yo, we need to keep this to like 90 minutes, 60 minutes or whatever, like, because they don't want it to be on the air. And a lot of times it's just on ESPN Plus. So my point is, you could see a landscape where DAZN is pretty much the only platform on which you can physically watch boxing. And that's going to be a lot of money leaving the sport, and having a new figure that's in here, like people are only leaving. That's where I say hopefully it ends up being a good thing.
Yeah, and it's going to shake things up in some kind of way or the other, and something new is going to happen from all this, because change is definitely in the air. I don't know, man. Let's keep the politics out of it, I guess. But like, it's like they say in UFC, it's like this guy is like all powerful, dictator of his realm.
Yep.
And that's what this guy could potentially be. But the problem is, if you don't kiss the ring, you don't get to play the game. And I don't think that's really what I want to see the sport turn into.
Well, monopolization is like that a lot, right? Like Rockefeller came in and sold gas right across the street from other gas stations at like half the price, and everybody went to his gas station, right? And then as soon as the other gas station across the street lost all their business, they closed, and then he just tripled his price. So the consumer lost, right? But they won for a little bit. And, the same is probably true here for fighters, right? Fighters, it probably, this generation might not face the burden of those decisions, but they're all going to chase the money, kiss the ring right now, get paid. Let's say he rolls up all the divisions into one boxing division, just like UFC. As fans and spectators, we might benefit. I mean, UFC is a better product than boxing because the best fight the best, right? But the fighters don't benefit. So these fighters might all get the checks, but once there's only one place to fight, he's going to be like, yeah, that fight's worth $80,000. That's what you get. And I'd be like, what? I used to make $800,000 for this fight. He's like, where are you going to get that? You're lucky I'm giving you 80. That's what the UFC is.
Yeah, and that's the problem with somebody having all that control. Well, we'll have to see how the future plays out, and we'll be watching everything, and we'll be right here. And if we have to start our own promotional company right here in the Northwest and just keep it real right here at home, that's what we're gonna have to do.
Shakur, hit me up. I'll sign you.
You're gonna want to be a star right here in Portland,
I
Oregon.
got $1,800 and I have 4 Czechvar lagers.
I got some leftover pizza.
I will say, last recap from the fight, one of the most hilarious things, they flashed. So all the boxers are like just chilling on the kind of whatever, like lawn area, walking around. Everybody's dapping them up. Tio's out there taking pictures of people, talking about pyramids and crazy shit. Yeah, exactly. And Devin comes on with like 12 bodyguards, like all around him, and people are yelling at him and whatever. And then later they flash him up on the monitor. Absolute immediate knee-jerk response. However many people were up in that venue, raining down boos.
No way.
Just boo, boo,
hating
so hard. And I was kind of sitting there just being like,
why?
But then I realized I did it too. But I didn't even think about it. Like, they showed him and I booed, and then I stopped myself right away because I was like, bro, why are you booing this dude? He's a tremendous fighter. Like, he gives back to the community. Like, yes, it's extremely weird that he has life-size oil paintings of him, like himself, whatever, petting a bald eagle in his living room.
Yeah,
but
that's some like Rocky 2 shit.
It's weird.
Rocky 3.
He is weird, but you don't got, like, what's there to hate on the dude?
I know, it's crazy. For a guy to get a loss is like that. And I think it's how he handled the whole situation, how he tried to sue and all that, and he got a record change.
But he deserves to have the record change. Dude was cheating.
Well, you know what? Have you heard about the new platform that Andre Ward started? All the Smoke.
No.
So I didn't catch this until after, but. They were teasing the sparring footage with him and Bud on YouTube. That's his new multimedia whatever company, and he said he's starting a platform for fighters to be interviewed by him and tell their own narrative.
Okay, I saw the interview with him and
he talked about that on air. He was interviewed by the staff there, and so it'd be nice to see a guy like Haney use that platform to get out there and speak the truth and speak his reality to the world, and not because. One of my notes was how much the commentators in the moment, unplanned, just spur of the moment, right off the top of the dome, comments can get now, they're going to create a narrative on the internet the next day. And that narrative can turn into somebody getting booed 6 months later in a stadium.
Right.
So he's trying to create a platform for people, for these fighters to, and have enough distribution and promotion on these videos to get it up there and get it online and TikTok and all this stuff where these guys can have a proper so they can get their own words out there, and then that can get, so maybe he needs to talk to Ward, because right now his social media and his social
stock, his
standing,
currency.
his social stock, man, is in the gutter, which is a shame.
I know. I just want to understand why. That's what I wish I could have interviewed, like 100 people right after that. I've been like, okay, like, explain to me, like, specifically. But I know they'd probably just be like, oh, he's like a runner, and Devin beat him fair and square, even though he cheated. And, they just have some weird, like, meandering. Like, he's got pillow hands. He never knocks anyone out. It's like, oh, okay. So you boo.
Well, I heard something about Sandor Martin, so we'll see if that fight comes together. Speaking of fights coming together, what do we got on the radar? What's coming up next week?
Are we going into it now? Should we do another episode later this week? Should we just go for it?
You know what? We're going. Man, we crossed the hour mark.
We crossed that. Yeah, 69 minutes. Oh, pause.
No diddy.
Yeah, no diddy. So there's 2 cards really coming up.
Let's just take a quick look to the future, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay, upcoming. So there's a ESPN card. Luis Alberto Lopez. Actually, this is on the zone. Sorry. Luis Alberto Lopez will make another defense of his IBF featherweight title in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I think this is his hometown, against Angelo Leo, who's 4 out of 5 in his last opponents. So featherweight title defense.
Sounds like a game fighter.
Yeah, and then co-feature, I think this is actually going to be steal the show, undefeated Lindolfo Delgado against Brian Flores, super lightweight.
Cool. Sounds like an all-action fucking Mexican war.
Yeah, that's going to be sluggers. Oh, it is on ESPN. I lied. And then the one I've been really looking forward to, I actually thought Ortiz-Zoo would be the fight I wanted to see most, maybe aside from Crawford, on that last card, but obviously Zoo's cut didn't heal in time, so he had to pull out. But so they got Ortiz to fight Bohocek, which I think is another incredible fight. And you know, probably people are sleeping on this fight. I think it might be pretty impressive. And
hopefully we can see Ortiz get past the 3rd, 4th, or 5th round and see what he can do besides, you know, the domination that he's been displaying.
Are you leaning towards Ortiz in this fight?
I mean, I like him. I like his style. I think he's got so much potential. I just want to see him shine, man, and hopefully he can do it. You know, he's only been up at 154 now for a year. Mm-hmm. It's time for him to start making some moves. I think him and Crawford is the big fight at 154 in a year from now, so he better get his ass in shape and start dominating these boys.
The thing that worries me about Ortiz is exactly what you were talking about Jared Anderson. Is like going back over his fights. It's like, okay, wait, why do I think this guy is so good? And I mean, obviously I know the answer. He's got a 100% KO rate and he's stopping people in 30 seconds, right? Obviously he can crack, but you kind of feel like that's kind of how I guess Jared Anderson, the luster has already started coming off, but he still looked dominant in almost all of his fights. And then you see him in there and 10 seconds in, you're like, oh shit, this guy's not as good as I thought he was. And I worry, I mean, Bohocek, just we saw him against a known commodity in Mendoza, right? And yeah, it's the first fighter that took him the distance. So maybe some of his luster did come off, but it was like a unanimous decision. He
Facts.
shut that dude down.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, we kind of know his pedigree. You know, I feel like Ortiz is a much more wild card. I could see Ortiz going in there and stopping this dude inside of 3 rounds. And I would be like, wow, amazing win, stock through the roof. What's next for this dude? I could also see, right, first, second round, you were watching the fight being like, oh shit, he's not as good as I thought he was.
Hey, well, you know, the whole boxing world's getting shaken up and things are changing a lot. You know, I got one question for you before we wrap up. Mm-hmm. Did they or did they not have ring girls at this show?
No, I think there's no ring girls at yeah.
And that puts me to another point. Turki Al-Shalik will never put together a female boxing match. So when he talks about making the best fights in the world, as a boxing podcast that stands for all fighters, I can't stand up for this man if he's not going to put the lady fighters on.
Damn, I have not heard, because I just kind of was like, yeah, coincidental. He hasn't done that many cards. There wasn't a female fighter. I knew about the ring girls.
No, I don't know if that's a fact.
No,
and
but
on this podcast, we never make assumptions, and I'm always going to say if I'm wrong. But I'm noticed he hasn't done it yet. I haven't looked up the rules, but in that culture, I'm making some assumptions now. But I don't think they let the ladies fight.
Well, I know they can't drive, but maybe they can. No, they can drive now, actually.
Okay.
So there's leaps and bounds here, brother.
Yeah, well, there's
this
a lot
podcast after this episode, we are never going anywhere.
I think my passport just got revoked.
Even if we get any type of break, they're just going to dig this up and be like
episode 30 of this podcast.
Done.
Two jokers
rescinded.
Down in a basement in Portland, Oregon, out here speaking facts, though. You know, so for lady fighters, I mean, people like Claressa Shields, they ain't getting that phone call.
Yeah, I'm really interested. I'm gonna do some research on that, and we'll have some more on that subject, because I think that's a really interesting call out. The ring girls I kind of get because they're salacious, You know,
Yeah.
like I've heard fighters who have, you know, are generally more on the religious side be like, yeah, this is kind of like I could do without this, and I get it.
I think the whole boxing world could do without it. No, I don't need it.
I need it. That's the
You
only
like
reason.
you like the Corona girls like awkwardly smiling behind Michael Buffer, just
Dude,
like
some of them
in their
look
bikinis. I'm like,
horrifying.
The-
Some of them are fantastic. Some of them I'm like, what has gone wrong? Is this the Dead Kennedys album, Plastic Surgery Disasters?
bro, did you? Yeah, speaking of losing connections, did you see De La Hoya's date?
Oh yeah,
Bro,
yeah.
she would look like she had got the facelift double time.
Bro, you can't go in on De La Hoya and go in on Turkey, and we're
know.
running out of friends here.
Bro, between his fake abs and his wife's fake face, bro.
What is with the fake abs thing? Is that a real thing?
It's a real thing.
So you get like implants?
Implants. Marcos Maidana's got it. Go check him out.
But like,
He's got a beer belly with a six-pack poking out.
so what do? You just push it through the fat? 'Cause you still got fat over it, right?
I don't know, bro. I haven't done it.
The thing I don't get is building a six pack is literally so easy. It's showing the six pack that's hard.
Well, you know, a six-pack's in the kitchen, bro.
That's what I'm saying.
And this
But like,
only-
you want to build the six pack, bro? Not you need 3 months. Every other day abs, you're good. You got
yeah,
abs.
and just don't fucking drink beer and eat cheeseburgers.
Yeah, well, that's the hard.
bing,
That's
bang,
why I don't
bong.
have a six pack. But
Yeah,
I got it under here. I
Yeah.
got it on. I got it on me under this.
Yeah, well, his is on top of his fat instead of underneath his fat.
Interesting.
That's how you know it's not real.
That's crazy.
But hey, De La Hoya, please forgive me. Your wife is beautiful. You
Yeah,
know?
your six pack look incredible.
You
Come
know,
in
we're
here.
not the only people that talk about it. But hey, we're out here, you know, doing our thing. That's Boxing Podcast. Always, you know, looking out for the fighters, all the fighters, making sure they're getting taken care of and they're taken care of. They're nice and safe out there.
Speaking of, Fundora's sister's fighting on the undercard of the card of the DAZN card, the Ortiz.
nice, good, yeah. The family of world champions.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a story.
I think she's got she has the IBF world flyweight title right now. She's crack. She's cool. I like watching her
yeah,
fight.
She's real rangy, just like her brother.
Yeah, she uses it a little more.
The Fundora family, they're doing good things. So, well, shit, man. Let's wrap it up, man.
All
I'm
right.
getting tired, bro. This is late night podcast.
This is past. I'm honestly like going to bed like right now.
Oh my
after
god,
this.
I've never been at your house this late before.
Yeah, this is wild. Well, 2 out of 3 for picks. We'll be back this next Saturday with picks. You're going to
I'll be in
Vegas.
Vegas for the Ageless Masters tournament.
Hell yeah.
Yes, sir. Taking care of business with my old guys.
About to whoop some ass.
I'm gonna go-
These geriatric
We
motherfuckers.
got 3 fights on the bill. We're gonna go 3-0, taking care of business.
All right. Well, until then, I'm Dust,
I'm Coach.
and that's boxing.